All right. Oh, nice. It unmuted me like I wanted it to. Excellent. All right. How is everyone doing? I'm really at the moment just looking to make sure everything's functioning properly. It's just always a an every stream kind of what's the word thing. Anyway, let's get the intro done, shall we? Good morning, good afternoon, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you might be watching this. My name is Josh, and welcome to my channel. On here, we talk news, we talk politics, we talk current events, we play video games. Last time, we played some Nightmare Cart. I thought that was a pretty fun game. While listening to a Ukraine debate, so that was fun. Sorry, one more thing. Sorry, just looking around. All right. So, everyone doing well today? It's Tuesday, July the 2nd, 2024. Oh. I gotta say, I'm happy that at least today we had some, I'm not gonna say like no news, but like a lot more like controlled news today. We got a couple topics we're gonna go through. First of which being I want to take a look. So we're gonna start off kind of following up with the Supreme Court's decision and kind of take a look at something that crossed my eyes and I thought was kind of interesting. About the case, the hush money case in New York. So we'll take a look at that. And then we are going to, quite frankly, beat up on Biden a little bit more today. I'm sorry, I don't really have. Oh wait, 1 second. Hold the phone. Might as well pay attention there, pal. Might as well look the part a little bit. There you go. Wait. Let's see if we can. Do you want to wear it proper? Or we could do backwards. We could do maybe backwards hat. No. That looks awful. Maybe like over one. No. That just looks like Malibu's Most Wanted. Okay, that's good. That's good. I think that's fine. Anyway, yeah, we're gonna spend a little bit looking at the what's the word? The damage control that Democrats are mounting. We looked a little bit at Nancy Pelosi, but we got some new polling out after the debate, so that's kind of important. I want to see if you guys can hear if I play music for myself. No, excellent. No, you know what? I'm not even gonna do that. I wanted to finish listening to that song before stream started, but I'll just listen to it whenever I get a chance. Anyway, let's take off, shall we? Let's get into it. All right. So we're all aware of the hush money case that took place, that Trump got convicted on. What is it? Maybe a couple weeks ago in New York for the payments made to Stormy Daniels. If you're asking me, I don't really care that much. This is one of those like you broke the law and like, you know, from a what's the word, legal standpoint, they should have gone after him the way they go after everybody else. You know, you can have a conversation about like, would this have gone farther, or would this have gone as far if he wasn't a prominent political figure? We can have that conversation, but like that conversation kind of, I think, distracts from the much more poignant conversation of like, does our court system emphasize, or are they interested in going after people of a higher economic status? Quite frankly, I don't think so. I think this was a case where they decided to go after somebody who was very wealthy because, quite frankly, he stuck his neck out in politics. But it shouldn't take that to go after the rich, right? Like, I think we all should be able to recognize that, like, this is how the system should be working. You know, you should be going after people regardless of their economic status when they break the law, and they just like, our justice system just kind of doesn't, unfortunately. So but in this case, you know, they did. And what we're kind of seeing ever since the what's the word? Ever since the decision was handed down on the presidential immunity by the Supreme Court, this is a consequence of that. Trump has been convicted, but it appears that the judge in the case is going to be delaying the actual sentencing because of the immunity ruling. So let's take a look. In a major reprieve for former President Donald Trump, sentencing for his hush money convictions was postponed Tuesday until at least September, if ever, as the judge agreed to weigh the possible impact of the new Supreme Court ruling on presidential immunity. Trump had been scheduled to face sentencing July 1st, just before the Republicans' nominating convention, on his New York convictions on felony charges of falsifying business records. He denies any wrongdoing. Well, he can deny it all he wants. The court found him guilty. The postponement sets the sentence for September 18th at the earliest, if it happens at all, since Trump's lawyers are arguing that the Supreme Court ruling merits not only delaying the sentencing, but tossing out his conviction. I would love to hear that argument. Quote, the impact of the immunity ruling is a loud and clear signal for justice in the United States. Trump crowed on his Truth social media site after the sentencing was delayed. Do people still use Truth? People didn't really use it to begin with. Are they using it now? I'd be kind of surprised. Using all capital letters, he claimed the Supreme Court's decision netted him, quote, total exoneration in this and other criminal cases he faces. There was no immediate comment on sentencing postponement from Manhattan prosecutors who brought the hush money case. So we're not going to spend like a million hours on this. I don't know if this is going to give us any more relevant information.
A Manhattan judge has agreed to delay Donald Trump's sentencing date.
Do we get some analysis with this, or is this is like literally
Trump
a 1 minute clip?
Scheduled to be sentenced on
this
July.
Is most likely. So let me talk about this really quickly. We'll just play the B-roll in the background. So, we can kind of expect a lot of nonsense from the Trump legal team. This is pretty novel because, quite frankly, never in the past have we had a situation where a sitting president, or I guess a former president, I should say, was convicted of crimes before his election and in the lead up to his election, and the Supreme Court then ruled that and by way of like legal gymnastics, the defense attorneys have now figured out a way to convince a judge that there's a conversation to be had about whether this was fair, or whether you could even move forward with the trial. If you're asking me, as far as I'm concerned, Donald Trump was not acting in any kind of capacity because the hush money payments were when? The hush money payments were from 2016, correct? Let's see, Trump. To my knowledge, they were Let's take, I know, come on, give me the fucking date. I know. Okay, when? Fine. Because I'm fairly certain, I am fairly certain that was 2016. So, okay, let's see. Can I get a year? Let's see. Falsifying 34, don't care. Don't care. Can I get like was it 2016? Okay, here we go. 2016. Okay, no, so it was 2016. So this would have been before any kind of presidential immunity should have kicked in. But because our legal system is the way it is, there's now going to be a delay. Because the Supreme Court in their decision kind of put a pause on, quite frankly, probably a lot of legal action that this dude was going to face, throwing him a bone. Naturally, there's 3 of the people who got appointed by him and didn't recuse themselves, which I think they certainly should have. But because of that, we are now sitting in a world where we don't even know. The judge in this case isn't even 100% sure if they can move forward. because of the Supreme Court's decision. And this is going to have a reverberating effect going into the future until this gets overturned again into the legal abilities, or at least the like immune illegality that a president can partake in while in office, and in this case, before entering office. So, you know, this is going to be really important. Maybe not really important. Let me not overstate. This is going to be important to watch once the judge comes to a decision come the 18th. I still don't believe that there's going to be any kind of, you know, I don't think there's going to be any kind of jail time. That's not something I think is in the cards. But it's not good, folks. Not good at all. Like I said, this is going to, what is this? What is happening? Weird. Okay. But no, this is not going to be something that I think is going to go away. But, you know, that's just kind of, you know, we're going to have to be living with this. And we'll talk a little bit. We'll be covering SCOTUS a little bit later in a Tim Pool segment, because I figure, you know, it'll be good to kind of like bounce off another individual a little bit. So we'll go over that when the time comes later. But for now, oh yeah, that's right. For now, I'm going to mute my mic for a second because I meant to do this earlier today and I didn't get around to it. So 1 second. Anyway. Excellent. All right. There we go. My phone was like super fucking crusty. What? Huh? My phone was just super crusty. Well, yeah, because I was just explaining I was sking this because I had gotten it all loose when I was at the meeting in between, because you know the union meetings are interesting to a point, and then you're just like, all right, like. Do you know where the cord is to hook up a controller? That white one? Because it's not in here. Okay. Miso's here? Okay. Hi, Miso. Can you go? Because you don't really behave very well in here, now do you? So why don't you go outside and be spastic? You don't need to be here and be spastic. What are you doing? Do you wanna lay in here? I'm kind of upset that you cats won't lay in the drawer. It's such a nice, fun place to hang out. Oh, I think he's coming back. Go on. Go on. River's in here. I need to find that cord. I don't know where that cord is. You see it? Oh, what? Okay. Well, we have the cord now to play games if we end up playing anything tonight. All right, cool. Whew. I don't know time for video games, but we'll see. Anyway, I know, big aside. It's one of those like very generic chords. Actually, I don't even remember what this is from. But let's put this back. Let's put this back where that belongs. All right, cool. Anyway, moving right along. Yeah, so we got polling out of, I believe, CNN. I actually haven't looked at 538 yet. Should we? What the fuck is this? Okay, let's take a look. Let's take a look at some polling, shall we? Ugh, goodness. There we go. All right. Cats. All right, let's take a look. July, what do we want? The debate was, when was the debate? The debate was on, what was that? The 27th? So anything past the 27th will be relevant. Well, let's take a look. Let's take a look here. We got primary, hair, whatever. General election, got, okay, June 28th. Biden approval, 40 to 56. Not good numbers, folks. June 29th, 2 days after Patriot polling. Not sure about that. Disapprove. That's kind of, I think, based on that name. That's probably not the most reputable source. College survey, Biden 42, Trump 44. General election, 41-44, Trump up 4. RFK actually hitting in the positives, up 2 for favorability. Biden's favorability continuing to open that gap. CNN 34 to 58, unfavorable for Biden. Not good. 39 favorable to 54. Honestly, slightly better, which is not good either. That's CNN for Trump favorability. Let's take a look. General election, Trump up 6, Trump up 6, Trump up 2, Trump up 5, Trump up 4. These are all CNN. Whoops. Okay, these are all from here down. Trump is up over Whitmer, Buttigieg, Newsom, Harris, and most notably Biden. Oh, wait, there's more? Oh, and Kennedy. Okay, that one has Kennedy in with picking up 14%. Okay. Harris X, Trump up consistently. This is not the trend you want to see after a presidential debate. Biden's approval, 36-64. Disapprove is up 28 from CNN. Biden favorability from YouGov, 42 to 56 and 39-55. Trump favorability, 43 to 56. Much smaller, a little bit of slightly smaller gap. And 39-56, basically the same. General election from YouGov, Biden 40, Trump 44. That's out of the margin of error at that point. Biden 43, Trump 45. That's within, but that's still not a good trend. Harris 45-47 with Trump up 2. And most recent, it looks like, coming in July 1st to the 2nd, dead even from Reuters Ipsos. Apparently Michelle Obama in a Reuters Ipsos poll ranks up 11 over Trump, which is kind of crazy. Trump's over Harris by 1 point. And for J.B. Pritzker, Gretchen Whitmer, and Andy Beshear, Trump is up at the least 4 and at the most 6. So the idea of them switching him out, I think at this moment does not look, it's one of those cases where I don't think you're giving up that much ground, but you are giving up some ground. But that just means you would have to campaign incredibly hard, and you would have to pick a candidate that was dynamic, that was charismatic, that was like ready to campaign theirs and like two of their friends' asses off. And Biden's not in that position, and Gretchen Whitmer, any of these people I think could campaign and make up that lead that's already baked into the race right now. But let's go take a look at some CNN stuff, shall we?
Attempting to use the monumental Supreme Court ruling on presidential power to warn about the dangers of a second Trump presidency. But in this crucial first week after the debate, the president's delivery was just as focused as his words.
No one is above the law, not even the President of the United States. Today's
that's not
Supreme
true,
Court
it seems
decision
like.
on presidential immunity, that fundamentally changed for all practical purposes, to Today's decision almost certainly means that there are virtually no limits on what a president can do. This is a fundamentally new principle, and it's a dangerous precedent, because the power of the office will no longer be constrained by the law, even including the Supreme Court of the United States.
Of course, it all comes down to what the voters think. CNN's David Chalian is here to break it down. Show us the numbers from this new poll.
Yeah, this was fielded entirely after our debate, as you noted, and I think there are some data points in here that the Biden campaign will use to try and push back on some of this Democratic concern, and I think there are some data points in here that those elected officials and donors who are concerned about Biden moving forward will use to push back on the president.
Isn't it kind of crazy that we give the same kind of like, we don't really have time to get into it, but like, does anybody else find it like kind of insane that we lend the same kind of talking point? Like, oh, like what do voters think about this? And what do donors think about this? Like, does anybody else find that like kind of wild that we have allowed our politics to be captured so openly by big money that we just, it's not even like a conversation piece? We don't even like think about it. It's just like baked into the cake. Like, yeah, like donors are concerned. Like in no democratic system would you talk about voters and donors to a party, private like donors, as if they're like co-equal branches to our election system. Like donors are fundamentally, and the donor takeover of both parties of our entire government is like a fundamental threat to our democracy, and we just treat it as a feature. It's kind of wild.
Take a look overall at the state of the race in our brand new poll. 49% Donald Trump, 43% Joe Biden. This is a 6-point lead, Dana.
He's got to go, dude.
This is unchanged.
There's only one man. There's only one man for the job.
In April. In fact, it's been a remarkably consistent race with Joe Biden trailing Donald Trump just outside the margin of error for quite some time. If you look back in our trend here, you see it was identical in April, 49-43. You see nothing has really changed since last August. By last fall, this race is kind of locked into place.
That's remarkable to look at that, even just from April to now. Exactly the same.
Identical. And the Biden campaign will say to folks, see, the debate didn't change the state of the race. Of course, when you're 6 points down, you kind of needed the debate to change.
What if I just put him right here?
I was talking about what was locked in here. So
I'm just gonna leave our board Bernard right here.
If your mind is made up in this poll, you're splitting 53% for Trump, 45% for Biden.
He's just gonna hang out here.
31% of voters in the poll say they are movable. Either they don't have a first choice or they're not locked in. They're willing to move off of who they're saying their choice is right now. 31% of the electorate's movable. They split more evenly. 39% for Trump, 37% for Biden. Obviously, Joe Biden needs to be working on this movable crowd.
Jesus, man. Like,
out of nearly a third of the electorate, whether those that don't have a choice or actually with Trump right now, but could move to improve his standing.
And talk about what is driving the voters on these numbers.
This is going to be welcome news to Biden because the race is still largely about Donald Trump as the motivating factor, right? Even after the debate. This is among...
That's not a good thing. Have Democrats not to this day, like, I don't know how Democrats haven't learned this lesson yet, that allowing the Republican Party to basically drive the news cycle and Democrats only ever being able to react to things and react poorly all the time has led to them having like historically weak support. People vote for Democrats because they don't want Republicans to win, but I don't even think since like Obama's first actual run, I don't think people have been motivated to vote positively, affirmatively for Democrats for a rather long time at this point. And it shows in their performance, I think, especially in Joe Biden's performance.
Biden supporters, Dana, what would your vote be more to vote against Trump or for Biden? 63% say against Trump, 37% say for Biden. And I will say this 37 is actually a slight improvement for Biden, where a bit more of his voters are saying they're actually voting for him. But overall, the thrust for Biden supporters is they want to vote against Trump, not for Biden. It's the complete reversal for Trump supporters. 2/3 of Trump supporters are casting their ballot for Donald Trump. 34% say they're casting against Joe Biden. Again, we see a slight uptick here for Trump among those voting for him, too. So we're seeing both Trump and Biden sort of consolidate their fellow partisans.
What about the debate performance? Let's talk about that, because we really want to know what voters thought and whether the debate performance actually impacted how they perceive Joe Biden.
Yeah, I mean, overall in this poll, we see that people say Donald Trump won the debate. We saw that in our instant poll. On the
I don't even think that's, I don't even think that's arguable.
But take a look at these numbers, and this is going to keep the conversation going inside the Democratic Party. Nearly 3/4 of American voters say someone else, not Joe Biden, would give Democrats their best chance if they were at the top of the ticket. Only 25% of voters say Joe Biden gives Democrats their best chance of winning in November. And take a look at these numbers. Joe Biden's approval rating is down to 36% in this poll. That is his lowest approval rating of his entire presidency in CNN polling. His lowest number nearly 4 months out from the election. That's not welcome news for any incumbent. And we tested what would it look like if Vice President Kamala Harris was in a matchup against Donald Trump and not Joe Biden. And the vice president actually does a little bit better against Trump than Joe Biden does. She pulls the race within margin of error, no clear leader. Donald Trump at 47%, Kamala Harris at 45%. We also tested Gavin Newsom, Pete Buttigieg, Gretchen Whitmer. You see here, those Democrats, they kind of perform like Joe Biden. Donald Trump is beating them right now outside the margin of error. Only Kamala Harris in this poll of these Democrats tested is getting this race within the margin of error, Dana.
All right, David. Poof, I'm over here now. We'll see you here in a minute.
And again, I don't think that that's, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't think that that's I don't think that's set in stone. If you ask me, I think when it comes down to how other candidates are going to stack up against Trump, I certainly think there's going to be a built-in like extra couple like extra hill to climb, like almost certainly. Those people are going to have to get their names out there. Those folks are going to have to like campaign way harder than Biden will to make up that difference. But if you ask me right now, between Kamala Harris and like Gretchen Whitmer as two examples of people who like potentially would run, I personally think Whitmer would be a smarter and a much more energetic pick. Even though Harris is the gap is closer with Harris, I think Harris over time will lose support. I think Whitmer will only gain it. And I think if Whitmer runs the kind of campaign that she would need to in such a short amount of time, I think that could be a dynamic race to get her the W. But that's all like if Biden even steps aside, which all signals point to he's not, which is incredibly dangerous. But let's continue.
A minute. Thank you so much for all of that very, very interesting reporting from our poll. Let's talk about more about all of this with my great group of reporters, the Washington Post's Yasmin Abutaleb, CNN's Eva McCann, and Olivier Knox of U.S. News. Again, David will be here in a moment. Olivier, I want to start with you.
I drank water way too fast. I'm already out. I'm gonna have to have a water break here in a minute.
Revealed.
Well, I have two thoughts. The first is I have not seen the Democratic Party this agitated and in this much of a panic since 1998, early 1998, when the Lewinsky scandal erupted.
Wow.
And we saw prominent Democrats saying that Bill Clinton should resign, right?
Jesus Christ, this party is pathetic.
That didn't happen, and Democrats did just fine in those midterms that year. The second thought I have is that we really should be polling the 4 or so states that are actually going to decide this election. If 24, yeah, I'm sure you will, but if 24 goes the way 20 and 16 went, we're talking about tens of thousands of voters in a handful of states. And so my theory of the case is that literally any...
Gotta love that democracy. That the people who actually end up choosing our our president in this country of the executive branch are a couple thousand people in some swing states. Gotta love that.
issue can swing this election.
I think that This is certainly instructive, but I think the most telling thing will really to be continuing to talk to voters. I was in conversation with some of them this weekend. There was a rally here in DC in support of low-wage workers. And I thought that there would be more pushback after the debate performance. I thought that they would raise issues with a whole number of things concerning President Biden, because this is really the left flank of the coalition. And instead, it was the exact opposite. They really rallied around him. They said that all of the response was not fair. They seemed to take a really pragmatic response to all of this and say, listen, he's ultimately going to be our nominee.
You know, I think I get a right to say this as a labor organizer, as a union member and union organizer. I'm okay with saying, no, we are not incredibly confident with the odds.
The alternative,
the people
is
I
former
talk
President
to
Trump,
are
and we're going to
not,
stand by him through this.
what's the word?
period.
Optimistic.
David, do you want to? I'm going to move on to some of the things that are going on in the Democratic Party with regard to the debate. But is there anything else that you really want to emphasize? Your big picture takeaway from
I kind of like this dude's glasses. I enjoy these. These are some nice glasses.
everything you just gave us?
Well, I think the biggest thing here is Joe Biden is not on track to win this race right now, and he needed a debate performance that was going to upend the trajectory of the race. That did not happen here. I mean, inside these numbers of him being 6 points down from Donald Trump is that he's down 10 points among independent voters. Obviously, that was not the case 4 years ago when he won the race nationally by 4 percentage points. So if this is what the result is, that would be, a 10-point swing in the other direction. It's noted.
Like, can you make up a 10-point swing? Like, at this stage, can you make that up campaigning the way that Biden is going to have to campaign? Like, again, this is why I said this earlier about like Whitmer or any of the other younger Democratic candidates. They will have the ability to campaign in a much more dynamic and like charismatic, and not even charismatic, I shouldn't say, in a more energetic fashion. Like, they are capable of meeting the energy that is needed to pick up and clear that gap. And in the end, I think win. I don't think Biden has the energy to come back. I just don't. We are like, we are in like the 5th or 6th inning, and it's like, brother, you like your team, you're winded. You haven't hit anything in the last. I'm making a sports analogy. You know what? Let me not try to make sports analogies that I'm unaware of. So let me make an analogy that I can actually use and like properly contextualize. You are Kazuchika Okada getting your ass beat by Katsuyori Shibata. Pummeled, mauled, under every definition of the word, for like 80, for the last 25 minutes. You have been chopped to death, forearmed until your neck is numb. You have been kicked in your chest any number of times. You are sweating profusely. You are out of breath. You need to make a comeback. If you are Kazuchika Okada, you can do it. But if you're let's say, if you're like a Tetsuya Naito now, can you hang in the late rounds in the past 25-minute ranks? I don't think so. I watched Forbidden Door. I saw that Naito Moxley match, and while it was good, it was fine. It was very clear that Naito is not what he used to be. And like, I've seen Okada lately, and the man can still go. And I think when I say that, and I'm just saying, like, I don't think Biden can hang in those tiers anymore. I don't think he can last that 25-minute singles match. I don't think he can do it. He can work the 10-minute match. Biden can work the Biden can work the undercard tag team matches on Road to shows. But Biden can no longer compete in the main event for the IWGP World Championship. Sorry, no. I hate the world title. For the IWGP Heavyweight title. He can't do it. I got it. Biden is Hiroshi Tanahashi. He can't do it. He can't do it anymore. I'm sorry. I love Tanahashi, but he can't do it anymore. Not in the main event. Can't do it anymore. I've now alienated like 10 people who watch this and are thinking, what is this dude talking about? Why is he talking about Japanese pro wrestling? If you don't know what I'm talking about, you should go watch New Japan Pro Wrestling. From like 2012 to like 2018, it's like just, it's amazing. Maybe more like 2010, actually. 2010 to like the entire 2010s are like a new golden age, basically. A platinum age, if you will. My point of all of this saying is I don't think Biden can make up, I don't think he can make it up. He can make up the ground.
Notable that Kamala Harris's performance with independent voters in this poll, she's almost even with Trump. Biden's 10 points down with independent voters.
All right, so
and the problem with Harris, if you ask me, is that people don't really know her very well. And I feel like if independents saw her more, I feel like her support would go down, actually.
Something that went from behind the scenes to on TV this morning, which is an interview with our colleague Casey Hunt. Mike Quigley, the congressman, said the following.
His 4 years are, one of the great presidencies of our lifetime. But I think he has to be honest with.
Keep in mind, that's a narrative. Like that what he's saying there is a narrative. And what we need to ask ourselves, and what you need to be asking yourself as you're trying to like understand the political winds, is that's a narrative. Does that sound right to you? Do you think most people would look back at the last 4 years and think to themselves, wow, I just lived through one of the greatest presidencies in our history? Regardless of whether that's true or not, it could be true on paper. I'm not making a judgment call on the actual quality, but from a narrative perspective, do people feel like the Biden administration, this first term was one of the best in our history? Even I don't feel that way, even though for all I know it might be true. But it doesn't feel that way. And that's the problem. Is you're asking people to ignore how they feel about this presidency and accept your assertion on it. And I just don't think people are there and ready to do that. I don't think that's something they're willing. I just don't. I don't see it.
Himself. This is a decision he's going to have to make. He clearly has to understand. I think what you're getting to here is that his decision not only impacts who's going to serve in the White House the next 4 years, but who's going to serve in the Senate, who's going to serve in the House, and it will have implications for decades to come. It's his decision. I just want him to appreciate at this time just how much it impacts not just his race, but all the other races.
That, and if I'm being really honest, I don't know if Biden's poor performance hurts Democrats across the board. If I'm being perfectly honest, I know the common wisdom is that a weak presidential ticket has down ballot consequences for more localized elections. And while I do like, there's no doubt that is true. There are going to be some downstream consequences. I'm not fully convinced that the voting public are going to respond as negatively to their local candidates as they are right now to Biden. I don't get that vibe.
Coming in November.
Now, what's notable about that isn't what he said. It's that he said it in public. We have all talked to people who have said that and much more in private, but they have been kept at bay by the Biden campaign. he decided he wanted to say
Yep.
that publicly.
We're going to be getting water soon,
Yeah,
folks.
I mean, I think this is really what has the potential to maybe swing the conversation in a more public way from sort of pundits and columnists to more Democratic elected officials who may start to call for there to be another nominee. Is if polls, the Biden campaign will point to polls like today's to say it didn't change the race. I think that's a bit of a problem because, like David said, that they needed to change the dynamics of the race. Being 6 points down is not an especially strong argument, but if polls show that Senate candidates, House candidates are now at risk of losing their races more than they were before because they're being dragged down by Biden, and this was a concern well before the debate that a lot of people didn't want to, in tough districts and tough states, didn't want to campaign with Biden, didn't want to appear at events with him. If now it looks like Democrats are at a bigger risk of not being able to flip the House, losing the Senate, then I think that could really start to change the public conversation.
Yeah, I've said it before, I'm growing more and more concerned. I like, at this point, it's just kind of, we are where we are. I mean,
President Biden's family is encouraging the president
I heard
to
about this
stay
as well.
in the 2024 race, defying calls for him to step aside following his alarming performance on Thursday's debate.
I don't know if I love these glasses. I feel like they're too thin. They're too, I feel like maybe thicker frames and a more bold color would be better. Because I can tell there's some blue in there, which looks nice. But like, if you're going to go blue, go like a brighter, more bold blue. Like navy's not bad, I guess, but like, I don't know. For me, I just feel like they could be better. They could be better.
The family is meeting at Camp David tonight. This is part of a planned.
It's been on my mind for anybody wondering because I'm in the process of getting new glasses. And as much as I like these, they're all like fucked up from work. So I need to get like new ones. I'd like to get a new prescription and new frames. And you go through the whole thing of like how your face is framed depending on the actual frames you get.
Gathering that was scheduled before the debate, we're told. And the message out of that meeting, at least for now, appears to be support for the president to continue pursuing a second presidential term. CNN's Priscilla Alvarez joins us now in Washington. Priscilla, what's your latest reporting at this hour?
Well, the president is huddling with his family following the immediate fallout of his debate performance on Thursday night, and Biden advisors are telling CNN that his family is encouraging him to stay in the race and supporting him and expressing that support.
Talk about fucking supportive to a fault. Jesus. I mean, yeah, like, it's one of those cases where you can't help but like want to shake members of the family and go like, this isn't about how you all feel. And this isn't like, this is so much more important than how Biden feels. Like, Biden's feelings are not that important to me. I don't care if his like ego is hurt a little bit. This election is more important than that. For God's sakes, like, we're gonna save Biden's ego for a couple of months so that he can like get fucking blown the fuck out and then he can feel even worse later. Like, is that really better?
Including Hunter Biden and the president's grandchildren. These advisors also saying that the conversations have been focused on how the family can help the president and not whether he should reconsider his candidacy. Of course, all of these conversations follow what has transpired since Thursday night's debate, as there have been calls for the president to withdraw from the race, including in editorial boards, as well as all corners of the Democratic Party. Now, the president himself has also been collecting data anecdotally and through public polling as he too tries to assess what folks are feeling across the party. And that has been a deep concern. Panic has certainly set in. Donors have been racked with anxiety over the president's poor performance on Thursday night. Now, the president, of course, did participate in a fundraising blitz over the weekend where he too conceded that Thursday night was not his best debate performance, but said that he would continue to fight and that he
No. I mean, a Bernie Harris ticket, maybe. Like, potentially. Wait, when was this? Wait. This was 2024 to the LGBTQI community, especially young trans Americans. Know your president and my entire administration have your back. We see. Oh no, this isn't gonna make me go, really. White House issues statement opposing gender affirming surgery. Oh my god. God damn it. Like, dude, it's just, what are you supposed to do? Like, it's, they're so fucking incompetent. God. Jesus. God, give us Bernie for Christ's sakes. It's the only way. It's literally the only fucking way it happens. Like, Coconut Island, lovely. Like, oh God. Like, what did Nancy Pelosi say now? Today's Supreme Court has gone rogue and no, whatever. That's a completely different topic. Okay, this is why we don't get on Twitter. What did I come here for? I just want to see if he's like made any kind of statement. Sure, let's go with this one. Jesus, that's a fucking cursed image. Equal before the law. Communities in every face some tough weather this summer, but we've got significant steps to address concerns, like proposing the first ever federal safety standard. Wow, proposing. Wow. Fucking, yeah, great.
State the obvious. Well, I know. I don't debate as well as I used to. I know right from wrong. I know how to get things done.
Like, the juice must have kicked in late that night. I don't know, man. It's just, it doesn't matter. He can perform like this all he wants at rallies. It's not going to matter. If his debate performances in front of the entire country are as bad as they were, it ain't going to matter, Jack. I don't know what to tell you.
Wanted to stay in the race, but the president.
What a
and his
silly
campaign
font for
are
Camp
certainly,
David.
Allison, under great scrutiny tonight, and what we know so far from the huddle that he had with his family at Camp David today.
If I was president, I would
the
demand that
support of
the
his
Camp
family
David
and
sign be
their
changed to
encouragement.
Comic
Of course,
Sans.
that is no small thing. These are key players in President Biden's orbit and have been crucial in a lot of his decision making when it comes to running for president.
Priscilla, thank you very much for all of that reporting. We're joined now by CNN senior data reporter Harry Enton. He
CBS Google 72% of registered voters say Biden does not have cognitive health to serve. Jesus.
For President Biden post-debate?
We do. You know, CBS News YouGov conducted some polling post-debate. We can compare it to the pre-debate numbers. And the bottom line, Alice, it's not any good. It's not any good. Look at this. Voters who say that Biden has the mental health to be president. It was just 35% pre-debate. Look where it's dropped to now post-debate, 27%. How about that he should be running for president? It was 37% pre-debate. It's now 28%. I have never seen numbers this bad for an incumbent president.
Like, these are bad. The idea that they got worse is the dangerous part, because that only means that there's more momentum bearing down on these numbers.
During my lifetime, I mean, that mental health to be president, just 27%. You might say, okay, you know, that's low, but a lot of people thought Biden was too old back in 2020. These numbers look nothing like this back in 2020. These numbers were bad already, and the truth is, Allison, they have gotten just considerably worse, even in just a few days after that first presidential debate.
Harry, do we have polling yet that suggests that voters want a different candidate?
Yeah, this is the whole question, right? If it's not President Biden, then who could it be on the Democratic side? And the truth is, there are no easy answers. You know, I went back and looked at the polling versus Donald Trump for a bunch of different Democrats have been suggested. Gretchen Whitmer,
yeah,
Gavin
we saw
Newsom,
this as well.
Kamala Harris. Look at this.
Look at that
all
shit-eating grin.
trail Donald Trump. So the idea here that we're somehow going to get this magic bullet, that there's somehow going to be some Democrat who can beat Donald Trump easily, I just don't see it in.
I mean, again, and I'll keep hammering this. This is baked in, but I think a younger candidate could close this gap. Absolutely. Absolutely.
In the numbers. At this
A more
particular
energetic
point,
candidate could absolutely
Joe
close a
Biden takes
4-point
on
gap.
Donald Trump,
Bernie
he's
closed a
trailing.
60-point
If there's
gap on
another
Hillary
Democrat who runs
in
against Donald
2016.
Trump, they too are trailing. Perhaps you
So,
want to make
I
the
mean,
argument you bring in another Democrat
it
who
can
isn't as
happen.
well known as Joe Biden, who's has universal name recognition, and maybe they could change the numbers. But the fact is, any Democrat who entered the race right now, at least among those that are being suggested by a bunch of folks, they would all enter the race at this particular point as an underdog to former President Donald Trump.
But Harry, are those numbers old numbers or are those since the debate? I mean, maybe the conversation has changed.
Yeah, those are not numbers that have been taken since the debate, though I was looking at numbers that were post-debate. This takes into account an average, a long-term average, right? Because the key is I don't just want to rely upon one polling number. But even the limited polling data that we have post-debate suggests that none of those candidates on your screen, Gretchen Whitmer, Gavin Newsom, or Kamala Harris, any
Fucking
of those
Newsom,
would be
man.
favored over Donald Trump. He leads against all of them, whether you look at the pre-debate numbers or the post-debate numbers. And of course, I like to look at an aggregate of numbers, so that's what I did. But the fact is, even if you just did post-debate, it really wouldn't look any different.
I want to see, is she talked about this at all?
I'm Joey Capoletti, and I'm at the Michigan report that she had called President Joe Biden's campaign chair, denying sure easy pointing to a number of national Democrats who have come out.
Can I like hear her talk for a minute? Like, who could replace? No, I'm aware of that. But I want like a speech. That's 3 years ago. No, supports Biden Detroit rally. Okay.
I decided to jump on and endorse Joe Biden. And you know why? Because Joe knows Michigan. Joe cares about Michigan. He cares about
I will say she sounds like a Midwesterner, if nothing else.
people like Michigan all across the country. We know healthcare is personal, right? Well, I gotta tell you, as a 29-year-old, I became a member of what's known as the sandwich generation. That means I was sandwiched between two generations of my own family for whom I was the primary caregiver. My mom, as she was dying of brain cancer, and my daughter, who was a newborn. That doesn't make me unique because there's a lot of people that are doing that. But I was also fighting an insurance company that was wrongfully denying my mom's chemotherapy. I have commiserated with Joe Biden about this because the brain tumor that killed my mother is the same one that took Beau Biden's life. I know that he and Barack Obama expanded health care in this country, so almost 700,000 Michiganders got health care. Personal enough to many of us here in Michigan, I'll tell you what else is. When we were on the ropes, when our auto industry was struggling, who had our backs? That's right, Barack Obama and Joe Biden.
Oh, it's depressing that I can't hear anything other than Sarah Palin a little bit in the pronunciation. Can I like get full speech at the DNC? Okay, let's.
Hello, America.
Let's
I'm
see.
Governor Gretchen Whitmer, or as
okay.
Donald Trump calls me, that woman from Michigan.
Mhm.
Tonight I'm here at UAW Local 652 in
Okay,
Lansing,
UAW.
Michigan.
That's cool.
Auto workers in this union and across our state could have lost their jobs if
Pro-union,
not for
happy.
Barack Obama and Joe Biden.
Uh-huh.
In 2009, the Obama-Biden administration inherited the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. The auto industry.
Is Newsom a better pick? I just heard good things about Whitmer and in terms of her ability to run. But like, okay, Gavin Newsom maybe. I remember okay, wait a minute. I remember he was in. We watched a little bit of this, didn't we?
Joe Biden you're down 41 points in your own home state. Biden administration, the last 3 years. It's been a master
Joe
class
Biden
in job
paying you
creation.
tonight?
3.9%.
I thought this was.
If
You
you're
are
running
too.
for
You just won't experiencing this.
You just won't admit it. You will not admit it.
Is Joe Biden experiencing this?
I despair. I despair this party, dude. I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't have enough experience. Like I said Whitmer because I was like, okay, she does well in Michigan. She's a Midwestern like Democrat that might, is from Michigan. That might give her like kind of a bit of like that folksy edge energy maybe. But even then I still just got like, I don't know, man. Newsom maybe. None of it. Like, again. This doesn't change any of what I said. Like, they all are younger. They just have the natural energy to run a little bit better.
My colleague Alex Wagner is standing by right now with California Governor
also
Biden
can't
surrogate
help
Gavin Newsom. Alex,
when I look at other things that, other speeches that they made, I just go like, I don't know. Maybe just being a Democrat means you like lack energy. I don't know.
cannot wait for this conversation.
Think about how much Republicans screech about nonsense and bullshit, and how like Democratic candidates rarely ever speak up about anything.
Well, neither can I. Well, you guys can't see it, but like all of Trump's shortlist VP nominees are walking around on the ground. Nobody this debate. Governor, what was your reaction to what we saw on screen?
Well, not on the substance. He won the debate. I'm old school. I'm old fashioned. That's what matters to me. I thought the lies, I was taking notes about all the lies. I ran out of paper. Donald Trump, no accountability on those lies, talking down the American economy, talking down our democracy. That was alarming. This is a world we're living in now. Donald Trump created where 13-year-olds have to deliver the child of the person that impregnated them. This is a world that Donald Trump is.
I was a bit
created.
muddled. I
And
wasn't
so
sure
for
where he
me,
was going with that.
It was daylight and darkness. And I'm very proud of the president's record, and I'm very proud for his vision of the future.
Let's talk about the substance, though, because I feel like on the signature issue that Democrats have, which is abortion, the president's response was garbled and undirected at best. Do you feel like he did
And
what
like
he
none
needed
of them
to
are going to
on
come
an
out and
issue
be
that
like,
could
all right,
motivate
Joe,
voters
it's
in the
time
past?
to head out to the woodshed.
Significantly insignificant because it's de minimis because the American people have made up their mind. They don't support the policies of Donald Trump. They certainly don't support his policies.
Like he's got more energy. There's no getting around that. Even if I definitely don't agree with a lot of his policies in California. Like he's got a lot more energy and a lot more of an ability to like speak to the issues. I don't know, man. It's Democrats. Okay. Well, what should we do? I'm trying to think what we should finish up with. Should we finish up with... We're not finishing. I'm just like looking at ordering wise. Let's take a break. Let's have some fun and do the SCOTUS segment next with Tim Pool. I'm going to go grab some water because I ran out really quickly. But we'll be right back. All right, we're back. So, oh my goodness gracious. All right. So, why did I go like straight to this? No, we're here right now. Okay, let me reset for a second. So, the Supreme Court ruled earlier this week that the president has broad immunity when it comes to actions taken that are official during his presidency. The legality of those actions are it's a little bit weird. So essentially, the Supreme Court has said that if a president takes an illegal action, as long as that is an official act as president, they are immune from prosecution for those acts. Meaning, not technically that what they did was not illegal. That does not mean that there would not be people under them that could not be held liable. A good example of this is like Watergate. Those actions, under this ruling, what Nixon did during Watergate would be completely legal because they were official acts as the president. But because they were technically illegal, the people who actually committed those, actually did all of the spying and everything else, those people would be held liable. A ridiculous notion, one that essentially like puts the president above the law on numerous different levels. Something that can be so obviously abused. You would think that the Supreme Court would, have some kind of, some kind of hesitance or pause in giving such broad powers to the president, such a broad shield from consequences, but apparently not. So let's go take a look at Tim Pool's response. The reason I'm picking Tim Pool is for two reasons. One, because content. You gotta follow the content, folks. And two, I'd like to hear some arguments for why people think this. Knowing Tim, he's not gonna. He's a big Trump guy, so I have no doubt that he'll be certainly interested in this. But I'm curious what his opinion would be if, there was a Democrat who he believed would take advantage of this. Because we all know Joe Biden's not going to do any part of, not going to be abusing this in any kind of way. But anyway, let's go take a look. I am sure he's got a totally not idiotic take on this one. I am sure it's completely above board this time. But, oh boy. Are we ready for this, folks?
Give presidents immunity for official acts, further delaying justices. Give presidents immunity for official acts, further delaying Trump's trial.
We're not using the post-millennial.
Now, Joe Biden
nice.
just addressed the nation in a 5-minute speech where he said that presidents are effectively kings now, and that's insane, not true. There's this ridiculous talking point coming out from the dissenting justice.
Well, I mean, that is, well, yeah, they're not kings. They just hold the same immunity that kings would under a feudal system. Again, if you can engage in illegality and not be prosecuted for it, it doesn't matter if we still, it renders the, it renders the illegal charge of that act mute. It would be like, if they were like, well, look, you're not allowed to kill anybody, but we're not going to prosecute you for it. We would all understand that to be, so I'm allowed to kill whoever we want. And they go, well, it's illegal. And you go, but there's no consequences. And if there aren't consequences, then it doesn't, the legality of something doesn't matter.
Sotomayor, for instance, said that the president could order SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival and they'd be immune. But I'm pretty sure literally everyone would believe that is not an official act constitutionally held by the president. But
well, no, it's not about what everybody else thinks. It's about what the Supreme Court thinks, Tim. Do you think we get to vote on Supreme Court decisions? No. Under their decision, the ruling was if it is an official act as the president, they are immune. Now, SEAL Team 6, on the other hand, can absolutely be prosecuted. SEAL Team 6 is not immune from this, but the president is, as long as it is an official act as the president. And furthermore, how do you prove something's an official act? Well, first of all, the lower courts are going to have to figure that out. But it seems like, based on what the Supreme Court has already ruled are official acts, in the case that they decided to take up, they already said that Trump speaking to Justice Department officials is an official act. Meaning, if you're talking to military officials, if you're giving orders to military officials as the commander in chief, by definition, that's an official act of the president. So they're immune. This is a justice this is a Supreme Court justice, a lawyer, somebody who, has a lot more, I think, argumentative rigor than Tim Pool. It's not really, I don't really think it's a hard case to argue.
But an act by a rogue president. And also she mentioned, what if he orders the military to stage a coup? Also not an official act. Now, that makes sense.
Wait, no, Tim, I don't think, I don't think you read the decision, or at the very least, I don't think you did the prerequisite reading or anything on this. I didn't read the whole decision. It's a long decision, but pal, buddy, friend, I don't know what to tell you, bud, but you've missed, as per usual, it feels like you've missed a few details. No, that is actually what they deemed. There is no definition of an official act. And the one that they did affirm is an official act, you would use as a roadmap to decide the other official acts in the future.
Said there could be an overlap there. And that's why we have impeachment. So you can impeach and convict the president and then criminally charge him.
Right, but impeachment, you have to get a supermajority. You have to get a vote from Congress, and you also have to get a vote from the House of Representatives. And if those two houses are majority held by the party that the president is sitting in, then the president has carte blanche, has the open ability to commit as many crimes as they would like, as long as they go through official channels and act and do them as official acts of the president. This actually isn't that complicated. It's rather simple. And it's also rather obvious what the conservative justices on the court wanted to put forward. A clear gateway to how to commit illegal acts as a president and get away with it. As long as you won't be impeached, which if the Congress is still split, guess what? You're just you can't get impeached then. Then it's just you're immune. So, does Tim think that's a dangerous precedent?
But I'll give you the basics. Held by the Supreme Court in only a few sentences, the constitutionally demanded duties of the president are, of course, immune. They ask him to do it. Official duties as president, which is in the periphery of constitutional obligations, of course, there is presumed immunity.
By the way, in the Constitution, there's no definition of official actions.
Though there are some potential
official acts. Sorry,
unofficial
I've been saying
acts
actions.
Enjoy no such immunity. I do not understand in what reality these liberal justices think a president should not be immune as it pertains to his official duties. That is absolutely nuts. You're asking someone to run for office, to run this country, and then saying you will criminally prosecute them for doing what the Constitution tells them to do.
So break the law? What? The Constitution doesn't ask you to break the law. And certainly, that's not to say that other presidents haven't broken the law. That's not at all to say that. But the differences between now and 2 weeks ago, the Supreme Court had not ruled on and kind of outlined the roadmap, or should I say the narrow alley that which one could go down to commit official illegal acts. And now there is an understanding of the legal precedent set by the Supreme Court.
And they're complaining about it. So what this did was it kicked back the J6 trial to the lower courts to determine whether or not what Trump did on January 6th was actually an official act, or was it an unofficial act, which is exactly what many pundits predicted, because the lower courts pushed this thing through way too quickly. What say you, panel?
I mean, what is the official act? He was campaigning. Like he was engaging in fraudulent campaigning after he had lost a free and fair election. How could that possibly, like, and again, if it's like, are we just saying that everything that happened at Jan 6 is above board because he did it as president, as an official, I don't know, gathering, as an official protest, as an official event held by the president of the United States? Does that give him the immunity for what happened that day?
Well, so
you go.
I'll go with this. This is what happens, and Joshua and I have been talking about this a lot because when in the course of writing on humans,
we have not been talking about this a lot.
The problem with the two camps in the U.S. now, the two majority camps in the political parties or the political spectrum, if you will, the right and the left, is that the right is hyper-focused on principles. The left is hyper-focused on power. So
what? It's like insane when I hear people like talk about their perspective on the two parties while we sit here on the left and like groan about the Democrats' inability to wield power and properly like use the power they have to use the bully pulpit to actually engage in politics in a strong, forceful, and confident manner, while they like are incapable of getting a public option through, as they're incapable of forgiving student debt, as they're incapable incapable of delivering on campaign promises. Us on the left are like, yeah, dude, like Democrats are incredibly weak and incredibly insufficient when it comes to like actually being in office. They just don't deliver on the things that they say they want to deliver on. And then you have guys like this who come up and go, oh yeah, the Democrats are focused on power. What power? Like, no, seriously, like what power are you even referring to? What could you possibly think that the Democrats are doing that is like them overreaching and grabbing power? Democrats have done the opposite for my entire lifetime. They have ceded power and ceded ground and ceded every opportunity they've had to gain power in this country. They have continued to half-ass their campaigns and continue to half-ass on their campaign promises. So I don't know what this guy is talking about. And the idea that like the Republicans are, you know, the party of principles. He's not wrong in the sense that, like, you know, there's a lot of people who are idiotically running as anti-abortion candidates and losing by standing on their principles. But if you knew anything about the history of the right-wing movement in this country, especially over the last 30 years, you would know by now that the Heritage Foundation, the what is it? It's the one for judges that I'm blanking on the name of. The Federalist Society and members of the Senate, led mostly by Mitch McConnell, have grabbed so much power for the judicial branch over the years. First step of this is make sure that you appoint as many judges as you can under Republican rule. Make sure that when it's time for Obama to nominate a Supreme Court justice, you refuse to do so, thereby giving your party an extra Supreme Court justice pick that you should have never had. If we're talking about who's grabbing power, It's the Republicans turning the judiciary branch into a undemocratic undemocratic partisan wing. Like, there's just no getting around this. So immediately whoever this guy is, I have no idea, is a fucking clown. I don't know if this is Jack Posobiec. I wouldn't know. I don't care. Like, but already, idiot, loser, incorrect, moron, whatever other negative adjectives you would like to ascribe to him.
So for the right, they'll say, oh, we have the best principles. We are so good. And they have all these philosophical debates about those principles. And libertarians come up and say, what about the non-aggression principle at all? You know, and then
boring. Absolutely boring. It's all nonsense also. All of it ever is, if you paid attention to Republican Party politics, is business class first. If you cut through all the bullshit, it's just let businesses be rule us all. It's just, can we please have Night City, please? Like, that's what the Republican Party actually represents.
The left says, well, what can we get away with? What can we do? What do these words say? And so if you have no...
What did these... See, you see what I mean? Like, it said nothing. He said nothing.
Discernment, then the Constitution is nothing but words on a piece of paper, meaning that high crimes and misdemeanors...
That is true.
You just referenced him, so the Constitution says impeachable for high crimes and misdemeanors. Well, what does that mean? High crimes and misdemeanors could be anything. We decide that does... So to the founders, obviously that had a set meaning, and you could read the...
Could you tell me what the set meaning is, please? Because it's like, well, what's a high crime? What's a low crime? What's a medium crime? What's the threshold for a high crime? Do you notice how unintellectual this person is when they're trying to explain how intellectual their side is? Stupid.
Papers, and you might do some learning about the language of the time and the rhetoric of the time, and you could discern what...
Who gives a shit? Why would I care about the time? Don't you think, like, if a president's being prosecuted now in 2024 for high crimes, don't you think we should acclimate that? We should like know what high crimes means in the 2024 context. And also, at the end of the day, like, you would still have to go to the Supreme Court or you can't just go back and ask, like, oh, hey, framers of the Constitution, what did you mean by high crimes? Because that's not really a term used in our legal system, like, at all. So, like, can you tell us, like, we have misdemeanor and felony. Is that, like, the difference? Like, felonies and what is a high crime? Yeah, because what did it say? High crimes and what was it again?
Side that does... Well, what does that mean? Misdemeanors, as you just referenced, Constitution is nothing but words on a piece of paper, meaning that high crimes and misdemeanors, as you...
Okay, so that means felonies then. So, like, I would assume, but then, like, you have the conversation of, like, oh, well, is a high crime a felony? Like, are those the same term, just like one is ye olde speak? And it's like, we do kind of have to figure this out, because it is kind of important to know, like, if you haven't figured that out from the Constitution, it means that you don't have an ability to actually hold people accountable for that, for those actions, when the Constitution clearly laid out a roadmap for you to hold somebody accountable. But, you know, whatever.
High crimes and misdemeanors could be anything. We decide that does... So to the founders, obviously that had a set.
We decide what? They didn't want to... Okay.
You could read the Federalist Papers, and you might do some learning about the language, how I would apply that, and then you would go in. Principles, yet they have no power. And so if you have principles, I would apply, whereas the right has principles, yet they have no power. And so
the Republican Party drives the news cycle every single day. They drive every political debate every single day. That's why we're constantly debating about, like, nonsense like abortion. And in power, they're okay, whatever. Like, they hold a majority in the House of Representatives. I don't know what this guy's talking about.
If you have principles without power, that is psychopathy. If you have power without principles, that's tyranny.
Psychopathy, by the way. Learn English, you fucking
plain
foreigner.
Text reading is all there is, because they have no conception of a higher field of justice. They have no conception.
Wait, is he arguing? Wait. Is he arguing that liberals are plain textualists? They're not. Republicans are oh god, this guy doesn't know anything. It's fine.
What the law should be.
That book looks really small. It's
matter.
probably
Whatever
mostly
we
just
can get
for
away with
coloring.
matters.
If you did not eat breakfast, is if we
A crime. It doesn't matter. Whatever we can get away with matters.
so what you're saying is if we asked, say, Sotomayor, if you did not eat breakfast yesterday, how would you have felt?
She would say, "I eat breakfast every day, Tim. I wouldn't know." And I'm pretty sure she does. Now, by the way,
the best insult, by the way.
Sonia Sotomayor.
Wow, this is really rigorous. I'm actually like kind of surprised how like devoid of any content this is. Like, this is pathetic, man. This is actually kind of sad. Nobody's saying anything because they don't know anything.
She apparently is actually,
or they
very
don't
nice
care.
and very polite in
Tim
real
probably
life,
doesn't care,
and that apparently has good relationships.
He gets paid
with,
a lot
like,
of money to
Brett
like
Kavanaugh and Clarence
not know
Thomas, has
anything
even
about
spoken
politics.
out
So
against harassment of the conservative
and lives within a
justices in
hug
way
box.
that,
So
you
it's
really don't
he's
hear
probably
from the
fine.
left. So I'm not gonna come down here on any of those things, but at the same time, she just clearly isn't at the caliber that we need our Supreme Court justices to be. And Mike Davis was on the show earlier today on Human Events, and he said this is kind of like listening to.
Okay, we're moving on because this guy's a fucking
level of
moron.
hysteria during arguments when we heard them before. I mean, everyone was saying Ketanji Brown Jackson had that line about, well, the Oval Office would become the nest of corruption in America or whatever it was. There was always sort of a very clear partisan panic where the
Geez, the Supreme Court is partisan. This is news to me, Timcast. News to me. What's funny to me? What's actually really funny to me, and like this is the difference between grifters on the right and honest content creators like myself. Yo, what's up, Bisky? How are you today? And content creators here on the left like myself. I do this stream from my bedroom. I do this. I am a one-man show. I have to put all these macros in and have them programmed to help my production, all of my production stuff. I have to go source articles. I have to go do, all like any of the reading. I have to be ready with arguments, to push back against these sorts of guys. You know what they do? They come in here and they say dumb shit like, can you believe how like the liberal justices are so partisan and how they're not really up to the job of being a Supreme Court justice like the other ones? I'm doing well, Biscuit. I'm doing well, all things considered. When an honest actor, an honest political analyst, political actor, if you will tell you, are the liberal justices partisan? Almost certainly. Like that, yeah, probably, yeah. They get appointed by liberals, by Democrats. So, I think that's fair to say. And the idea that somehow only conservative justices on the court are the only ones who aren't partisan, they couldn't possibly be partisan, should tell you everything about these people's politics and also about what they're willing to lie to you about. That's what this should tell you, is that if they're selling you a line about how the Supreme Court's liberal justices are the only partisan members on the Supreme Court, that should tell you a lot about their analysis or about how they feel about you. They probably think you're really stupid. And if you keep watching them, I'm sorry to inform you, you'll continue to be. Trump, we need to stop LGBTQ. Cheers. Yeah. Need to stop yeah.
liberal justices felt like this was only able to be used in a way that was bad, and we had the conservative justices saying these are decisions that will impact the long-term future of the country. I think
everything impacts the long-term future of the country if you're the president, dumbass.
In terms of the progressive or the leftist reaction to this,
I can speak to that.
Settled for is if the Supreme Court came out and said Donald Trump's the worst person on earth, and we will personally get the handcuffs and let you guys lock him up. I mean,
yeah, you see how shallow that is? Do you see how kind of stupid that is as an entire take? Like, it really sucks too. It really sucks because these people, these motherfuckers, get paid infinitely more to say to spew dumb shit like this, to their conservative audience, because that's what they've lapped up for the last like 8 years or however long Tim Pool's channel's been around. And quite frankly, since Fox News came around. And so the Republican Party turned into a propaganda party and not one that's actually interested in the governance of the people of the United States. That's just kind of where we are. And unfortunately, a lot of people realized early on that, if they play nice with the Republican propaganda arm, they'll get thrown some support, they'll get thrown some investment money, they'll get thrown some advertising dollars. And what do you know? Then they can buy a nice studio like this, where their big argument, their big, like, oh, we got the left, is them making a Neanderthal level point like this. I don't know what this chick's name is, but like, man, whoever you are, whatever. I don't keep track of basically anybody on the show besides Tim, since that's the name of his fucking show. But man, does he surround himself with some dumb fucking ass people.
I think they would have attacked the Supreme Court for any kind of compromise, and this obviously was sort of their worst case
So what
scenario.
you're saying, if this was Joe Biden as president, they would have the opposite opinion.
Of course, because it doesn't matter. It only matters that it's Trump.
I think you're exactly right.
I'd like to cite.
So whom?
So I need to cite Sotomayor here real quick so you can understand. Actually, you know what I want to do? The first thing I want to do.
I'm confused. Joe Biden is president right now. Wouldn't the liberal justices, under that logic, be in favor of broad presidential immunity? Am I crazy? Because it's not like this decision only affects Trump. This decision affects Biden. This now opens the door for Biden to commit quite a lot of presidential acts, or official acts, I should say. Don't you think if the liberal justices wanted Biden to do that, they would have just ruled in favor? Because they're saying, oh, if it was Biden that was seeking immunity, they'd be okay with it. But Biden gets that immunity now. But now they're not okay with it. Do you see how that doesn't make any goddamn sense? Like when you think about it for 2 seconds? Ay, ay, ay. These grifters, man, I swear. And it's depressing. They get so much money just to reinforce people's misunderstanding of things. Or just to like lie to them, I guess. I don't even know. I don't know why somebody buys a membership to Tim Pool. Or, gives him money in whatever way. He has like members, right? Like that is
just show you Roberts.
That is like
I
how
believe
it
was Roberts who wrote the majority opinion, correct? Held. Yes. Under our constitutional structure of separate
Okay,
powers,
yeah, he
the
does
nature
have
of
his own
presidential
little, like,
powers entitles
website.
a former
Okay.
president to absolute immunity from criminal prosecution for actions
Nope,
within
no
his
thank you.
conclusive and preclusive constitutional authority. And he is entitled to at least presumptive immunity from prosecution for all his official acts. There is no immunity for unofficial acts. I'm then going to do a quick search for immune.
And what are the unofficial acts? Do we get a definition?
And cite Sotomayor, who says, orders the Navy SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival, immune. Organizes a military coup to hold into power, immune. Takes a bribe in exchange for a pardon, immune. Immune, immune, immune. Very articulate.
Yep.
This mirrors her comments during oral argument.
Right. The point I'm trying to bring up here is,
Would any of you like to field an argument as to why she's wrong, or are you all just gonna like croak about, or like is this just gonna be a complaint session of like, how dare you speak forcefully against something?
showing you that Sotomayor acts like a feminist blogger and not a, I don't know, highest justice in the land laying down a dissenting opinion.
Well, who do you think her staff is, right? Like, they don't write the first drafts on their own. It's not like it's just the Supreme Court just saying, I'm going to shut myself in my library and type this out. No, their staff is hugely influential, and I'm sure that she has gone out of her way.
Wait, do you think Clarence Thomas or the rest of them are writing their own briefs as well? Like, who cares? It's their official statement. Like, what?
to encourage or to offer positions to progressive future lawyers of America.
And you look at each of these words; these are incendiary words meant to escalate tension and the FUD, right? Fear, uncertainty, and doubt, right?
Well, no. Who is this? Who is this criminally bald person? Sir, you're not immune. You're not immune for this baldness. I only allow for one bald in the world, and it's Saitama. That's it. No one else. So, yeah, yeah, she's making a point. They're lawyers. They're making arguments? Did none of these people have any idea how the Supreme Court works? Or how you even make it to the Supreme Court?
We have hold on to power, bribe, and these are hypotheticals, right? And the goal is that if you can have someone imagine a hypothetical, then it's as if it's real in their own mind. And if you stack up a bunch of them, then you have a terror over.
That is how hypotheticals work. You do present multiple hypotheticals to build to a point that you're trying to make. That is how those work, bald idiot. I love this face. I need to actually, can we just Jesus Christ. Yeah, that is kind of how that works, bud. I don't know what to tell you. But I can't with some of this sometimes.
Overload, and then you can issue a call to action. This is effective leftist.
Well, I mean,
equation.
Especially when you're dealing with people who can't understand conditional hypotheticals. So
Precisely.
If you're dealing with a person and you say to them, this was the joke we made in the beginning of the show, but we'll get serious with it. If you did not eat breakfast yesterday, how would you have felt? People with low IQs, and this is a meme, I don't know the degree to which it's true. The idea is that people with low IQs can't understand the concept. They'll respond with, but I did eat breakfast yesterday. I don't know, but what if you didn't? And they'd say, I don't know, but I did eat breakfast yesterday.
Can somebody explain to me how this is relevant? No, seriously. I need, whether it's somebody in the live chat or if it's somebody watching on YouTube, I need someone to explain what the fuck how this is relevant to the case at hand. He's mentioned this cereal thing, breakfast thing twice, and did I just miss it? Was I not paying attention? I'm confused now what this has to do with anything.
Whereas average people would be like, if I didn't eat breakfast, I guess hungry? Some people might go, I usually don't eat breakfast anyway. I probably feel the same. All that matters is that you understand the concept of a what if scenario. Now, you take someone who can't grasp that.
But it's also a
wasn't the other guy just complaining about hypotheticals? Those are okay.
What if scenario, and then the application of that scenario to yourself. So the condition being not just what if
they're not saying anything. They're literally not saying anything. We're having an entire conversation right now about the validity of a what if scenario while trying to make a point. What?
Astronauts in space encounter aliens and blah blah blah, because anyone can kind of do that.
It's also the justices aren't speaking on what ifs, by the way. What the justices are saying is, under this ruling and by this reading and understanding of presidential immunity, these scenarios that I've laid out would be immune scenarios. Not that what if this happened? Because guess what? The president has had SEAL Team Six go assassinate people. Not a political rival. And for the president to order the political assassination of somebody is maybe not illegal because they're not under US law, and there's a bunch of nuance to that. But my point being is that you can do the whole is it really a what if? Does it really? It's no, it doesn't. They've laid out what Sotomayor is saying is, under this reading, this line of events can happen and the president will be immune. Are you okay with that? Do you think, would that have made sense to you a week ago? That the president can order the assassination of a political rival and he is immune from prosecution for that action because it is an official act. That is the question. But these morons, these buffoons are incapable of engaging with it. So now they have to engage with like, they instead choose to engage with like, I mean, is a what if like real? And like, what if the what if was if this, and it's just,
But
that's
it's
what we're
also
doing.
How would you
We're waffling.
actually, what is, so a theory of mind, in this case, just of yourself, not even a question, by the way, theory of mind of someone else. How do you think Tim Pool would have felt if Tim Pool hadn't had breakfast yesterday? That's completely.
So,
and you notice how this is about nothing? Like this has nothing to do with the topic.
what we get here is, for people who are not smart enough to understand this, orders Navy SEAL Team 6 to assassinate a political rival, immune, organizes a military coup, immune. For people who can't understand conditional hypotheticals, they're thinking, he's going to do that. He's doing this. And that's what they're trying to.
Well, no, Tim. The entire argument is that you are, through this decision, allowing these actions to move into an unprosecutorial area to which the legality of them is irrelevant. Because at the end of the day, like having, if you're going, because the conservative justice is hinged on, as long as it's an official act, you have broad presidential immunity. Then we have to ask, well, if you're going to define an official act, cool, let's define it and let's make sure that we're all in agreement on what an official act is. Under this reading, where the official act, where every act of the president, everything he does is undetermined to be unofficial or official, we then need to ask ourselves, okay, if that's true, does that mean, that would mean that this thing that the president did under these circumstances, that's an official act. You can officiate something illegal and avoid prosecution. That's like the whole concept here.
What's even crazier, though,
And it works on MSNBC and CNN. Of
course.
Look at their anchors. That's what they're saying.
They were saying, could you imagine? And I think it was that guy, Keith Gifford or Kyle Gifford, whoever.
This is really funny because it's like, obviously you guys can't. I mean, again, if they thought Biden was going to do it, they'd all be screeching about it.
And he goes, could you
and
imagine?
This is why his whole comments about Democrats grabbing power
and a special counsel
are complete
and have
bullshit.
them start rounding up people and investigating.
Because if he really thought that Biden was going to do any of this, he would also be worried about the overreach of the president's ability to break the law.
Political rivals and their allies and putting them in jail.
Because I don't think this just applies to Trump.
Went to jail.
This applies to everybody.
Morning.
This applies to
into the gulag.
The president.
Peter Navarro is currently in jail. You just convicted Donald Trump.
No one's above the law.
No one's above the law. No one's above the law. No one's above the law. And again,
well, wait a minute. Isn't the argument you can't do the whole no one's above the law thing, and then when the Supreme Court decides, oh, actually there is somebody above the law, it's the president, and then the people who say no one's above the law goes, hey, that doesn't comport with the whole no one's above the law thing of this country. That's what's called being ideologically consistent. I don't know if you two know that, but
people above the law.
So and this is where it comes down to whose law, whose democracy.
Well, that
the
goes back to
United
the Fisher
States.
case,
Not
too.
yours.
I mean, you had this situation where with Fisher,
Oh,
you had
and-
this law that was
uh-huh.
created to prevent accounting fraud being used against January 6 defendants, and that really shows like.
I disagree with the ruling in that.
You disagree with that?
Yeah, I
ruling?
disagree with the ruling in the Fisher
Why?
case.
Really?
Because they should have struck down 1512c2 in entirety.
Oh, instead of saying it doesn't apply
Because
here.
they punted, because Roberts kind of punted on this
Mhm.
and said, oh, well, it doesn't apply in this case because it was completely overbroad. Because
Geez, this guy would like the revokement of an entire law. Shocking.
it stated
interesting.
any.
Don't
and
care.
who
I don't
made
care.
this whole
I don't. I
group
don't
now with
care.
MSNBC
This guy.
go
This guy's
Wyoming
brain
because the
broken.
Weissman right there, but they would eventually find anyone guilty. This is ridiculous. On
Tim Cast eye
for saying
Cool.
and
Lovely.
legal scholarship.
Amazing. Great. God, I got even less out of that than I expected to. Man, to think that people like pay attention to that. Okay. Let's shift gears a little bit actually to the EU really quickly. before I look at RFK, because that's a little bit of a longer video. So the EU, not the EU, I should say, in France. In France, they had elections. I'm going to watch another YouTuber, EU Made Easy, because I find their videos to be very good and succinct and actually understandable. And EU politics are very confusing, I find. So we're going to look at that, and then we'll do like the RFK segment. I know I kind of just like fucking dipped out of that entire... I couldn't listen to that anymore. That was... I don't think I'm allowed to say how bad I think that was. All I have to say, all I will say is, in regards to Tim Pool, the president has broad immunity to engage in official acts of the president. That's all I have to say. Anyway.
Assembly election results for the first round are in, and let's face it, for the second time within a month, it's bad news for the French president, Emmanuel Macron. But bear in mind that these are not the presidential elections, but rather the parliamentary ones, meaning that Macron will stay as president until 2027 as planned. But before we dive into the results, let's quickly explore how the elections in France actually work and why there are 2 rounds with 2 different dates. France uses a system called the 2-round system, with candidates divided based on their constituencies. In the first round, on June the 30th, citizens voted for the candidates and their respective parties within their constituencies. There are 2 possible outcomes in the first round. Either a single candidate receives 50% or more of the votes, or none of the candidates reaches this threshold. If a candidate receives 50% or more, they automatically become a member of the National Assembly, a result known as an absolute majority vote. In this case, there will be no second round. If no candidate achieves 50%, which is way more common, a second round is held on July the 7th. This is where the top candidates face off. To qualify for the second round, candidates need at least 12.5% of the eligible voter share in their constituency. In the second round, people vote again, and the winner wins the constituency and secures a seat in the parliament. The example on the screen shows 3 parties in the runoff, but it is way more common to see only 2. There are 577 constituencies, meaning 577 seats. Thus, 289 seats.
You know, I'm going to say it, and I'm a supporter of democracy, but boy, is it fucking so confusing sometimes.
Are required for a majority. So what do the first round results
and a
look
bit convoluted
like? In terms of percentages, in 4th place
back,
with 7% of the vote, we have the Republicans, who stand for traditional conservative values, emphasizing economic liberalism, reduced government intervention, and strong national security policies. In 3rd place, with 21% of the vote, we have Macron's centrist Ensemble, who stand for pro-European Union policies, economic reforms aimed at boosting competitiveness and innovation, and a progressive social agenda that includes environmental sustainability. In 2nd place, with 28% of the vote, we have the left-wing New Popular Front, also called NFP. The NFP is a broad left-wing alliance created as the successor of the New Ecological and Social People's Union. It is composed of various smaller socialist, communist, and green parties. The NFP stands for social justice, environmental sustainability, increased social welfare programs, and reduced economic inequality. And in 1st place, with 34% of the vote, there's Le Pen's and Bardella's National Rally, plus their allies, who stand for...
God damn, fucking liberals, get the hell out of here, man. God.
Nationalist and anti-immigration policies, prioritizing French sovereignty over EU integration, advocating for strict law and order measures, and economic protectionism to support French businesses. In terms of percentages, Le Pen and Bardella's National Rally...
I swear to God, with conservatives, man, it's just business interests. Whether it's America, whether it's France, it's just business interests. It's just make sure businesses can be... It's just Night City. They all just want Night City. That's all they all want.
Won the first round of the elections. However, it is not that simple. So far, only a handful of constituencies have been decided. At the time of recording, 38 seats have been secured for the National Rally and its allies. 32 seats have been secured for the NFP, and
That's
only
good.
2 seats have been secured for Macron's party.
Well, fuck
the
'em.
Republicans secured 1 seat, with 3 seats going elsewhere. This means that a staggering 87% of total available seats are still up for grabs this Sunday, when we enter the second round. In other words, for 501 seats, no single
Okay,
party
so
secured
it's literally this
50%,
Sunday. Okay,
and
good.
we are going into a runoff. We will definitely create a video on this, so make sure you subscribe. So it might look like Le Pen and Bardella's national rally are on the path to a parliamentary majority, but this is definitely not set in stone yet. They are indeed in their strongest position ever, but several factors could influence the final outcome. In the two-round system of French elections, the cordon sanitaire often comes into play in the second round. For example, if a far-right candidate makes it to the runoff plus 2 other candidates, mainstream parties may withdraw their candidates to endorse each other, to consolidate votes against the far-right candidate. And this is already happening, with both Macron's and Mélenchon's parties saying they would remove their candidate if they are in 3rd place in a constituency where the far right is currently 1st. Additionally, strategic voting plays a significant role. Voters from different political backgrounds may be encouraged to vote for a less preferred mainstream candidate to block the far-right candidate. For example, a more left-wing voter might support a more center-right candidate in the second round if the alternative is a far-right victory. So what will happen? We see 2 scenarios. Firstly, come Sunday, the national rally secures at least 289 seats, achieving an absolute majority in the National Assembly. In this case, Jordan Bardella would become the prime minister. This scenario would result in cohabitation, where the president and the prime minister come from different political parties. Cohabitation can lead to political tension and policy gridlock, as the executive
I was going to say, it's going to be exactly how it is in the US, where nothing gets the fuck done.
Second, come Sunday, no French party secures an absolute majority. Even if the National Rally wins the most seats, the National Rally's candidate for prime minister, Jordan Bardella, has already stated that he won't be prime minister without an absolute majority. This would mean 2 options, scenario 2A and 2B if you will. Macron's Renaissance Party may be able to form an anti-far-right bloc together with the NFP, or part of the NFP, or the Republicans. Or, no ruling coalition is formed.
Knowing the fucking liberals, they'll side with the fucking Republicans. I'm calling it right now. If I'm right, we're gonna come back. We're gonna come back on Sunday, and we're gonna find out if I'm right.
Meaning that France
well, maybe
could
not
face
Sunday.
a
It'll be like
governmental
Monday or
deadlock.
Tuesday.
This is an unprecedented situation and would complicate the implementation of major reforms for at least a year, as new legislative elections cannot be called to resolve the impasse until then. French viewers and others, we would love to hear from you, so let us know in the comments what you think. Thank you for
Okay, well, okay, lovely. Every once in a while, I try to engage with international news, and EU politics, you know, are important to a degree to the United States, and I don't know. I think it's just smart to be educated on it. Okay, so with that topic out of the way, shall we? Oh, what's up, River? Hello. Hello. Come here. Come here. Oh, there you go. Hello. 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 What you up to? This is River. Whoop. Whoop. Okay. Are you gonna sit? Are you gonna be good? Are you gonna be good? Oh, yeah. You want some pets? You here for some pets? Okay. Sit there nicely. Nope. What? Please don't step on the keys. Okay, thank you for avoiding the keyboard. I appreciate that. Anyway, all right. So finishing up, let's go take a look at this RFK interview. Should we play video games while we do this? Maybe, possibly. I'm not 100% sure if we should. Let me go. Whoop. There we go. I get it, Steam. I understand. I know the summer sale. I'm aware. I keep looking. They keep sending me things for Ready or Not. I do kind of want to get it at some point, but all right, let's go take a look. Something that's like mindless that we don't have to pay like the utmost attention to. I don't think I have anything that's like that mindless. Like if I could put on, what's it called, was being difficult. If I could play XDefiant, I guess that would be pretty mindless. But I don't think I have anything right now that's in that category. Like I can't do the finals. That's just, I'm too locked in while playing that. Nah, we'll just listen to it. We're gonna put it on like, we're gonna put it on like 1.2 1.25, I think. Yeah. 1.25 should be good. We'll just make our way through it.
See you, sir.
Soccer, thanks.
Let's go take a look, shall we?
So, we watched your real debate. It was garnered views by millions of people. We have some video from that, actually. And we wanted to talk to you a little bit about your decision to participate and to hold this event, which happened outside.
What? I am so... What is happening right now?
Of the mainstream media system.
Wait, did he hold like a... Wait, did he hold like a debate reacting to their debate? What? Hold the phone. I don't think we can watch all of that. Almost certainly we can't. RFK Jr.? What? Rival debate.
And while the televised debate kept some of the same in that room.
Well, Natasha, programming was same question.
Oh, interesting.
And who laughed and they gasped while watching bad.
Interesting. I mean, that's funny. That's a good meme.
Which consequently was still watched by millions. And
That's a
what
good
it was
meme.
like to be
I appreciate that
excluded
meme.
from the CNN debate, and why you decided to throw that independent event.
Well, there was 71% of the American people wanted me on that debate stage, and I qualified for the debate by the criteria. I qualified better than any other candidate. Let me put it that way, by the criteria that CNN established. We think that debate was.
Oh yeah, God. I hate to be that guy, but I'm not gonna lie to you. I think if you had added RFK Jr. to the debate from Thursday, I do not think that would have been an improvement on the experience of the American people. Between Biden's like disheveled, confused look, between Trump's like blithering nature, I don't think we need raspy ass RFK Jr. I'm sorry. It's kind of torture.
Illegal campaign contribution by CNN to those two candidates. I don't know if the FEC will hold them responsible or not, since it's dominated by those two parties.
What?
But we thought Americans deserve another choice, and and a view of the issues that really should be talked about. The issues that these two candidates will never talk about.
I think I'm gonna go run and get water, but I'm not gonna stop it. I'm not gonna go on a break this time. We're just gonna let it roll.
Which they can't address because they're feeding on it and they're products of it. This huge budget deficit that the two of them, $34 trillion.
Oh my God, this dude's just gonna talk for By the time I get back, he still won't be done answering.
50 cents out of every dollar that we collect in taxes is going to go to servicing the debt.
Still going on.
100%. And these two candidates can't talk about it because both of them promised to balance the budget and both of them ran up the biggest deficits in history. They can't talk about winding down the wars because both of them are feeding into them. They can't talk about the chronic disease epidemic, which is now absorbing 5 times our military budget and has affected 60% of our kids. We're the sickest country in the world, and they presided over it. So they can't talk about ending the corrupt merger of state and corporate power because both of them are part of the swamp, and they can't talk about making government honest again. And,
Wow.
I said this during the debate that the day I
There's
get
no
into
way.
office,
Tell me Sauger
I'm
asked a
gonna
new
issue an
question.
executive order
He had to have
that
asked a
any
new question,
federal
right?
official who lies to the
Like,
American people will
right?
immediately
He
lose
asked.
their job.
Please tell me he
Because
asked another
Biden and
question.
Trump can't do that. They were both up there.
Please
telling
don't tell me he has been answering. 305. Okay, how long was I gone for? 10. That was like 50 seconds. I was gone for 55, 60, 65, 70.
Which they can't address because they're feeding on it and they're products. of
Okay,
it.
this is where
This
I left
huge budget
off.
Deficit that the two of them, $34 trillion, that instead of every two candidates can't talk about. They can't talk epidemic. 50% of our kids ending the part of the.
Oh my
and,
God,
I said,
he
they can't
didn't.
do their job.
I thought I
the
was being
Americans
funny.
deserved something. And
I thought I was being funny.
And by the way,
Oh my God.
CNN
Okay.
COVID, which was the most momentous and consequential political
What?
decision over the past many decades.
Okay.
The
You want
lockdowns
to
have
go?
shut down all of our businesses, shut down our schools, etc. CNN
Oh,
was the
the guy-
biggest cheerleader
and then
for
you
that.
run under the
So
fence.
I don't think Jake Tapper
just keeps
is
talking,
really
River.
capable of confronting
I can't
these
get a word in
candidates on the
edgewise.
powerful consequences that those decisions
I
have
can't
in
even
American lives.
address a
Bobby,
point
one of
that
the
he's
things we do-
making.
I mean, I appreciate
Holy
it. Obviously, we what genuinely.
Holy fuck. We're almost at 4 minutes already, and dude has not. Oh my
wanted you to be
god.
on the debate stage, which we said in our coverage as well. I do think it was a very consequential decision to exclude you, given the fallout from that. I'm curious to get your reaction to President Biden's performance. I mean, do you think that he's currently fit to serve as president after the performance that he gave?
I don't think he's fit to serve as president. I think, you know, the thing that frightens me, Sager, is if we're in a situation where he gets that call at 3 o'clock in the morning and he's woken up, he's got 6 minutes to make the decision about whether to retaliate and to unleash our nuclear power on the Russians.
Are you proposing a hypothetical? Tim Pool would not be in favor of this hypothetical.
The Chinese.
I know I'm being funny. What? What are you doing? Can you guys see her? I don't know what she's doing. Like, okay, look, what are you doing? Why are you yelling? Why are you yapping? No. Not keep yelling in here. Come here. Here. Yell for the mic, and then you're getting out of here. Do it. Are you not going to talk now? Now you don't want to talk? You do all that yelling over there, but now you don't. Oh. Yeah. Kids these days. Okay, I guess we're going back.
About me, but I've known Joe Biden for 40 years, and he's just, I don't feel, you know, he's got to make a decision that's going to affect the lives of our children, that's going to affect the welfare of all of humanity.
Right.
And I want somebody who's on the ball making that decision. I don't know, you know, even, I'll say this, Sager, and I don't want to make this personal about me, but I've known Joe Biden for
but he's about to. Get ready, folks.
40 years, and he's just a completely different person now. And even this little decision of him not providing me with Secret Service protection, I don't think that Joe Biden I knew would do that. I don't believe he's making that decision. I believe he probably doesn't even know about it, because I think he seems unaware. And I know that, you know, Joe Biden has a bust of my father sitting behind him at the Oval Office. He knows what happened to my dad. And, you know, he was the person I knew, the Joe Biden I knew, was a decent man. He would not make this kind of decision. So what I think is there's somebody sitting there, some kid in a lanyard, some anonymous man in a lanyard, who's sitting with his feet up on the desk at the Oval Office saying, I'm the real president. Right. Nobody knows about it. But there's somebody else.
Does he really believe that? You can't seriously believe that, man. Like, like, this guy is supposed to be the rational choice for president. That's his entire thing, is that I'm a more rational choice, and this is more rational. I despair, folks. I despair.
I just believe that there's somebody else making these decisions, because I think that Joe Biden I know would not be making that kind of decision.
Bobby, since you were
a whole bunch of them.
Right. Well, but since you were the highest polling Democrat in the race, other than Joe Biden, before you decided to run as an independent, have any Democrats or major donors reached out to you to ask you to become the standard bearer and replace him?
We haven't heard from anybody yet. I'm sure they're looking at polls, and, you know, the polls, we did the Zogby poll, which is the biggest poll ever taken in this race, one of the biggest polls ever taken, 26,000 people. So the typical poll taker has about, like Quinnipiac or Harvard Harris or Gallup, has 1,000 to 2,200 people in it. This was a poll of 26,000, and it shows clearly that I'm the only person who can beat Donald Trump, including President Biden. If I'm in the race, President Biden loses. If I'm out of the race, he loses even worse. But in a head-to-head, me against Donald Trump, I win. In a head-to-head, me against President Biden.
Wait, did he just say that? Wait a minute.
Biden. If I'm in the race, and it shows clearly that I'm the only person who can beat Donald Trump, including President Biden. If I'm in the race, President Biden loses. If I'm out of the race, he loses even worse.
Wait, he loses worse if you're out of the race? Wouldn't more people shift from the RFK crowd to the Biden crowd? Hasn't that been his entire conceit? That, like, he would, if given the chance, he would pull stronger support from Biden to himself? But that would go the other way as well. If he dropped out, there would be people who would move from RFK to Biden. Okay.
But in a head-to-head, me against Donald Trump, I win. In a head-to-head, me against President Biden, I win in a landslide. I win 39 states. He only wins 11. On my numbers, I'm the only candidate who can cut into Donald Trump's base. And if the objective, which I think is true, there's two parts of the Democratic Party. There's the donor class, which I think would like to keep me out of would rather have Donald Trump than me in office.
Okay.
And then there's the rank and file Democrats who are so terrified of Donald Trump that they would much rather have me as their candidate because I'm the only one who can win.
Is it something you would even consider, Bobby, at this point? You've run as an independent, you've picked your vice president. Would you even consider running for the nomination at the DNC if they were offered it to you?
I think that because me running as an independent is going to cut away from votes, or the Democratic and Republican parties. So the clearest path for me to the White House is through the Democratic Party. I don't have to do that, but I think that would be probably the best choice for everybody, and it's certainly something that I would consider.
Well, I'm curious to then find out, because one of the things that you're often accused of is being a MAGA sympathizer or some sort of agent for Donald Trump. What did you disagree with about Trump most on the debate stage?
Well, I think Donald Trump was a terrible president. I think a lot of the things he talks about winding down the military
is he referring to?
But he didn't do that. He gave the first $1.5 billion to Ukraine to buy for the first time offensive weapons. He was the one who sent Pompeo over there in 2019 and said, we're gonna extend NATO into Ukraine. And he walked away from the intermediate nuclear weapons treaty unilaterally with the Russians. And if you look at the way he governed, he said he was going to drain the swamp. He brought a pharmaceutical industry lobbyist in to run HHS. He brought an oil lobbyist in to run the Interior Department. He brought a coal lobbyist in to run EPA. He brought a Verizon executive in to run the FCC.
Oh, that's great.
He brought a banker in to run the Treasury Department.
Like, my dude only pulls in, like, I don't know what poll numbers he's looking at, but I see no evidence that a Trump, like, does 538 have anything?
And so, and he brought John Bolton in to run the NSA, and he brought an oil executive in to run the State Department. So these are swamp creatures. He wasn't draining the swamp. He was turning the government over to corporate pirates. And so everything he did in governing in that way, I think a lot of the rhetoric.
Like, I don't know what polling he's talking about.
Need to wind down,
I don't. I have no idea what polling he's talking about.
Capable of governing, of meeting the expectations.
Is it literally
that he raises with his rhetoric?
Returning then to the
what is it,
possibility of running as a Democrat, do you still think that, well, I mean, one of the criticisms I've seen is that you're too far apart from the Democratic Party. Do you think
Nice argument, Senator. Why don't you back it up with a source?
My source is that I made it the fuck up.
Nice argument.
Classic Democrat. I'm the
I think I need to get that as a sound drop. That's funny.
List of all of the important priorities for my father, my uncle, I would check off every time. Protecting our Constitution, protecting our Bill of Rights, decoupling corporate control from our
that's funny.
From our regulatory
that kills me every time.
Which become sock puppets for the industries they're supposed to regulate, winding down the war machine, using diplomacy instead of war. All of the things, personal freedoms, medical autonomy, bodily autonomy, all the things that the Democratic Party has traditionally represented and fought for. Those are the issues that, that are my priorities.
Bobby, what did you make of the Supreme Court's decision yesterday on presidential immunity? Is it something you agreed with or disagreed with?
I think it's horrifying. I think, and I'm not partisan about this. It helped Donald Trump, but that's not what I care about. I care about the fact that we now, the executive now has this enormous power that I don't think was contemplated by the framers of our Constitution. And I think it, in the hands of Democrats or Republicans, at some point, our country is going to land in the hand. There's going to be a demagogue who is occupying the Oval Office, and the tools and the weapons that the Supreme Court have now put at that person's disposal are they're breathtaking. And I don't think, and I think it would be challenging for our democracy to survive in any form that we recognize if those, every power that an executive is given will ultimately be abused to the maximum extent possible. And I think, I think we all have to contemplate what happens when you unleash executive power to that extent. And I think it's very, very alarming.
Bobby, what were you?
God, at least that was a good answer. Like, imagine, we're moving on. I don't even. I can't believe that entire Tim Pool segment.
I don't believe I've seen you expound on that before. Like, what would you look at in terms of Roe versus Wade? Let's say in terms of Chevron, this immunity case, and others. How would you evaluate, considering that the next president is likely to appoint at least 2 Supreme Court justices to the court?
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, what's it called? Isn't like Alito or Roberts? It's like 2 and like Clarence Thomas, I think, have said that they want to retire next during the next term, so that, which granted, like, if Trump loses, then they probably won't, and if Trump wins, they probably will retire. This is just another example of a obviously partisan and corrupt and completely what's the word I'm looking for, the compromised court.
Yeah, I mean, Sagar, it's hard. I would really evaluate based upon character and a commitment to the Constitution. Chevron cuts both ways. Chevron was really.
I've seen you expound on that before. Like, what would you look at, evaluate, considering that the next president is likely to appoint at least 2 Supreme Court justices to the court?
Yeah, I mean, Sagar, it's hard. I would really evaluate based upon character and a commitment to the Constitution. Chevron cuts both ways. Chevron was really, I spent 40 years in the trenches fighting both, suing administrative agencies and also suing large corporations. And Chevron was an important weapon for us because it gave the regulatory agency the capacity to fill the kind of interstitial places in the statutes that Congress just will never answer. And now that is gone, and every decision by the regulatory agency can now be litigated, which is going to enormously weaken the regulatory agencies. Chevron.
Yeah, as somebody who personally is works in labor organizing, as somebody who's like in a union and engaged with a lot of union activity right now, I can definitely tell you I've had conversations with our union lawyers about what this what the Chevron doctrine is going to mean for the NLRB, which is going to mean that there's going to be so many more resources that are going to have to be that are going to have to be what's the word I'm looking for, brought to bear on the constant legal challenges that are whenever the NLRB wants to make a decision on something. So I mean, it is for like as somebody involved in the labor movement right now, it is quite depressing and a bit like worrying that we are going to have a like wildly even more inefficient NLRB, and one that is going to be hamstrung on being able to make decisions. Like, that is going to have a lot of downstream consequences for unions and the ability to unionize and the ability to take union action amongst everything else. So yeah, like, just from that perspective, we're definitely concerned. It is going to make labor action that much harder going forward.
It was a two-edged sword. Because when the regulatory agency becomes captured by corporations, it also functions to widen corporate power. So, unfortunately, I think we're in a place in American history where, I'm kind of neutral on the Chevron issue because I see the really good things that it did in the past, but I also see the very bad potential that it has right now.
Well, I mean, corporate capture isn't really anything new. Like when it comes down to it, corporate capture is something that our entire government has an issue, has to kind of deal with, and it's something that we should be addressing a lot more head on, across the board throughout all of our governmental bodies. The regulatory bodies aren't like unique in that they've been captured by corporations, and I think that in a world where that's true, we can work to decouple those two parties. Joe Biden's NLRB and FTC and FCC have been better for labor and better for, in terms of separating the regulatory bodies from the people they regulate. But with the Chevron doctrine now being overturned, it doesn't matter who the president's going to be. It's going to be harder no matter who the president is. Until Democrats decide to pass a like law enshrining the Chevron doctrine into law, unless they do that under a Democratic supermajority, we are not going to see a return to the kind of I think the kind of the ability that Chevron gave the regulatory bodies in this country. I just don't think, and again, one of those was fixable. The other one is such a harder fix, in my opinion. So
we're living in a situation where our regulatory agencies are just indentured servants and really subsidiaries of the corporations that they're supposed to regulate.
I also don't know which ones. I'm assuming. I kind of assume he's just talking about like whatever one lords over the pharmaceuticals, because he's a big what's the word, anti-vax guy.
Democrats do swap out Joe Biden for somebody else, would there be a criteria? What would your decision-making process be? Would you possibly drop out of the race? Are you going to stay in this race no matter what, unless it's you? How would you evaluate that scenario?
Oh, I'm going to stay in the race. I think, unless they appointed somebody who shared exactly, all of my ambitions for the government for dismantling the.
Is there anyone not you that you could point to that represents somebody like that?
Not among the contenders. I think we all know who the contenders are. There's 6 or 7 people who they could pick, and I think among those people, there is nobody that would lead me to drop out of the race.
Let's say that probably the most likely is the current Vice President, Kamala Harris. If you were up against her, what would your campaign message be as to why you're better than Kamala Harris?
I think Kamala has the same issues that President Biden has without the cognitive issues, is that she's very pro-war. She's supported censorship. She supported this unprecedented assault on our Constitution where they closed all the churches.
Wanted to overturn Roe v. Wade. Donald Trump said that
I could have had Bernie.
I think was his expression. Almost everybody wanted to overturn Roe v. Wade.
Everybody wanted it brought back, and every legal scholar wanted it that way.
Well, actually, the vast majority of the people wanted to keep Roe v. Wade.
This was 8 hours ago. He posted this.
The vast majority of the people in Wisconsin and
this man is more lucid than the 2 guys that are younger than him. Oh my God, the Democrats fucked us so bad. Where's my soundboard? Where is it? Oh my God, I just can't believe it.
understand that when we talk about freedom, what freedom is about is the right of a woman to control her own body and make these most.
Fuck this RFK shit. I want to talk about Bernie. Fuck this RFK shit. I'm done. I don't even care anymore.
And all of his friends who tell us how much they hate big government, apparently they think the government has a right to intrude on the very personal decision of every woman in America. We disagree.
God. Like, this was the guy who they fought tooth and nail to keep out of the White House.
This country, working people are sick and tired of being ripped off. So let me be as clear as I can.
Like, I can't stress enough. I cannot stress enough to everybody who ever sees this video. The Democrats worked so incredibly hard. They worked 10 times as hard as they are right now, trying to tell you that Biden is capable of running for president. They worked 10 times harder then to keep Bernie Sanders out than they're working now to convince you that Biden can run. Look at this man. Look at this motherfucker here. This is not, like, this isn't even a comparison. These two people are not comparable. This guy has energy. This guy has a vision for the country. This guy is passionate. This guy can speak in full fucking sentences. This motherfucker here, closed a 60-point gap on Hillary Clinton with zero name recognition. He was and should have been the candidate. There should have been, Biden never should have ran in 2020. That should have never even happened. But because of COVID, because of liberals scaring people into thinking, oh no, so much has changed, we can't have too much change. We can't have too many good things. People folded. People flinched. And because of that, where's our boy? Because of that. Like, is he old? You're fucking right, he is. It should have been Bernie. And you know what? I'm going to come out and I'm going to say it right now. It should be Bernie now. 2024, Biden cannot run. So who is our better option? Show me a better option for president than Bernie Sanders, the guy who should have never lost in 2020, the guy who single-handedly energized this party for 2 cycles, the man who ushered in Democrats like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Democrats like Jamal Bowman, who just cost AIPAC, what was it, $14 million to unseat? This is the man that we should be talking about right now. There is no other Kamala Harris, Gretchen Whitmer, Gavin Newsom, none of them have a right to lay claim on this nomination right here more than Bernie fucking Sanders. Not a single one of them. Not a single one of them has the energy, vigor, and vision that Bernie Sanders has had his entire goddamn career. And the frustrating thing, the thing why I'm getting really frustrated talking about it, even though I fucking love Bernie. But you know what frustrates the fuck out of me? Is I know Democrats won't do it. They would rather lose than nominate Bernie, than offer it to him, because they know that a Bernie Sanders administration will upend decades of neoliberal Clintonite rule. And they don't want that. They just simply do not want that. Even though it is it is better politically and it is more in line with what the party is looking for. Bernie Sanders is Kendrick Lamar. Joe Biden is Drake. I'm sorry. I'm going to say it. I'll say it. I'll be the guy. And we're headed toward a loss. And it's because Democrats, specifically the Democratic Party and the leadership within it, are unwilling to move. They're just unwilling to do it. Isn't Bernie also shorter than Joe too? I could be wrong about that. Would that cement it? Like I'm pretty sure he's like a smaller dude. No. Don't give me the yep, yeah, there it is. Yep, he's definitely shorter. Anyway, I've yelled for long enough. I do believe it is time for me to depart for the night. But I really mean it. I mean it. There's only one guy. There is only one person who can save us. That's it. Like, there's just no getting around that. Ugh. Yeah, for real. Anyway, all right. I'm now tired. I've made my point. Interesting. Ooh, let's go take a look. What the fuck am I looking at? I don't even know what I'm looking at. I see polling among all voters. Support for alternative Democrats is 0.6 to 2.7. Buttigieg 52, Harris 49, Newsom 50, Whitmer. Interesting. Buttigieg and Whitmer overperformed the most, with both leading or tied in the states that get them 270 electoral votes. Interesting. We could just pick Bernie. We could just pick Bernie. And I'm willing to put my entire like political streamer career on it. Bernie would win. He's got the sauce, he's got the energy, he's got the vision. Anyway, that's it for me. If you've been lurking, you should, I'm just making suggestions here for, I think this is just good advice. You should hit that follow button. So it lets you know when I come back tomorrow at around 8 o'clock that you should come back and lurk and watch more politics content. Or maybe if we play video games, I don't know. Maybe we'll play something tomorrow. God, I'm like so bad at the call to actions. You're supposed to like be really good at that stuff as like a content creator, and I just, as far as I'm concerned, you will hit the follow button when you think I've earned the follow button. That's how I actually really feel about it. All the calls to action are just, they're good practices to kind of, make yourself, what's the word? To kind of give yourself an edge. But you know what? I'm here to be honest. I don't really like that end of it, and I'm okay with paying the price for that. But either way, I'll see all of you tomorrow at 8 o'clock ish Mountain Time. Everyone have a lovely night.
Bye.